Hey everyone, this is the video for lesson 26, session 3, and it starts on page 545. So get your workbook out and ready. We get to continue working on writing decimals as fractions and the other way around, changing fractions into decimals, decimals into fractions, just converting, changing them from one form to another. So hopefully you're feeling okay about it. It's been a couple of days so far. We still have this session, session 4, and session 5 to do with decimals before we move on. So no problem there. And we have a try it problem to begin like usual, and it has some cute little animal cards. I always forget what these guys are called. They're not lemurs. They're like tacers or something weird. These like little bug-eyed little monkey looking things. I can't remember what they're called, but they're so funny. Look at their little like fingers and toes. And a rhino and a whale. Okay, anyway, let's get started. I got distracted by the cute animal. That figures. Okay, Eli collects animal cards. He says that 0 and 5/100ths of his cards are endangered animal cards. What fraction of his cards are endangered animal cards? Okay, so we're just changing this decimal into a fraction. Okay, so if I wanted to show my work, I could do that with a place value chart. Okay, so first will be ones, the decimal point, tenths, and hundredths. Hundredths, okay. All right, so first there's a 0, so I'm going to put a 0 in my ones place, the decimal point, there's a 0 in the tenths place, and then a 5 in the hundredths place. Okay, so it's 0 and 5/100ths. I wouldn't say 0 and 0.5/100ths, right? You don't see this and say 0.5. That's just the number 5. So it's 0 and 5/100ths, or just 5/100ths, because there's nothing in the ones place. So 5/100ths, hundredths is my denominator then. If you're saying 5/100ths, that should sound like a fraction. 5/100ths. That's it. That decimal equals this fraction, 5/100ths. 5/100ths. You say them the same way, so if you're saying it correctly, it should be pretty simple to change it from a decimal into a fraction. 5/100ths equals 5/100ths. So 5/100ths of his cards are endangered animal cards. That's it. Okay, let's look at the back page. Pause it there if you need to catch up. All right, so on the back where they explain and show us different models, the first one, it shows a fraction model. So this one shows the decimal 5/100ths, because there's 100 pieces and 5 are colored in. So I could look at that and see, oh, well, if I need to change it to a fraction, there's 100 equal parts and 5 are shaded, so it equals 5/100ths. Or you could use a place value chart like how I did on the previous page. So either one of those are great strategies for changing decimals into fractions. Okay, connect it questions on page 547. Okay, in the page, there we go. Okay, number 1, how can the model help you write a fraction equivalent to 0 and 5/100ths? So it doesn't really say which model on the previous page. Usually it says like the first model it or the second model it. I don't know if they're talking about this one or this one. I'm gonna assume we're talking about the fraction model, this one, okay? So how can that model help you write a fraction that's equivalent to 5/100ths? Well, the number of equal parts. The number of equal parts is 100, which would be the denominator. And the number that's shaded in is 5, which would be the numerator. So that's how it helps me write a fraction. So let's just say there are 100 equal parts. So that is the denominator. Five of them is shaded in, so that's the numerator. 5 parts are shaded, so that is the numerator. That's how we write our fraction. 5 parts shaded in, numerator, 100 equal parts, denominator. Okay, number 2. How can a place value chart help you write a fraction equivalent to 0 and 5/100ths? So the place value chart down here, how does that help us write it as a fraction? So I would say that the hundredths column shows that there are 5 hundredths, and there's no tenths and there's no ones. So there is a 5 in the hundredths place, but no ones or tenths. So that's how I know it's 5 hundredths. Use words to describe the fraction of Eli's cards that are endangered animal cards. So they just want us to write the fraction in word form. Use words. So 5 hundredths of his cards are endangered animal cards. Probably off the screen a bit. There you go. So, answer is 5 hundredths. Not 500ths, 5 hundredths. So the THS that's added at the end makes it hundredths. Number 4, what fraction of Eli's cards are endangered animal cards? I feel like we've written this 1,000 times already. It's 5 hundredths. It's everywhere. Number 5, explain how you can write a decimal in hundredths as a fraction. Okay. It's just how you say it. So if we look at this decimal, it's just how you say it is the fraction. You can say the decimal name. So say what the decimal is, like here. You say the numerator of the fraction. 5, whatever number is in it, is in your place value chart, is the numerator. 5, and then what's the place value that you say? 5 hundredths. So hundredths is my denominator. Okay. So how do we describe that? Let's see. You can say the decimal name. The number you say is the numerator, like the 5. The place value name, you say, is the denominator. Okay, so for another example, and you don't have to write this, but it's ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. Oh, sorry, got a little out of control there. So if it was 0 ones and 6 tenths and no hundredths. So this would just be 6 tenths. Because there's no hundredths, so I don't have to worry about that. There's no ones. This decimal is just 6/10, okay? But the number I say is 6, right? So that's my numerator. The place value I said was tenths, 6/10. So that's my denominator. Okay? What if it was, let's change this to an 8, 83, okay? Put a 3 in the hundredths place. It's an H for hundredths. I just wrote it in a line. So now if it was 0 and 83 hundredths, okay, 83 hundredths. So the number I said was 83, so that's my numerator. The place value I said was hundredths, 83 hundredths. So 83 hundredths equals 83 hundredths. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It's just how you say it. All right, reflect on the bottom. What's your favorite way to write a decimal as an equivalent fraction? So your options are the fraction model or a place value chart. Which one's your favorite and why? Or if you have your own strategy, if you have some fancy way of doing it that is a different way than we just learned, explain your strategy. And then move on to the apply it problems. So page 548, apply what we just learned to solve these other problems. Write this decimal in words and as a fraction. Show your work. I didn't want to say it because that gives away the answer, because that's how it is in words and as a fraction. So try it on your own first. I challenge you to pause the video, try this whole page first, 7, 8, and 9. I feel like you guys can do this by now. Hopefully you can. So when you're ready, then let's check our work, okay? So if I wanted to do a place value chart, ones, decimal point, whoa, tenths, hundredths, I'll just abbreviate. Okay, so there's 0, decimal point, 9 in my tenths place, nothing in my hundredths place. So it's 9 tenths. So that's how I say it. That's how I write it in words, 9 tenths, right? 9 tenths, but they also want it as a fraction. So I said the number 9, 9 is the only number down here. So that's going to be my numerator. And the place value it's in is tenths, 9 tenths. So that's my fraction. That's it. Star for showing your work somehow. Star for 9 tenths in word form, star for 9 tenths in fraction form. If you showed your work with like a place value chart or a fraction model, then you get this star for showing your work, since it did ask you to show your work. If you just wrote 9 tenths in the fraction, you only get 2 stars. Okay, next one, number 8. Write this decimal in words and as a fraction. So the same thing, and show your work. So place value chart, ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. Okay, there's a 0 in the ones place, the decimal point, there's an 8 in the tenths place, and a 9 in the hundredths place. So I'm just copying it from there into my place value chart. So how would I say that? No ones, decimal point, 8 in the tenths, 9 in the hundredths. So if I just look at this number, it's 89, right? 89, and then the last place value that it's in is hundredths. Okay, this is the first place value. I don't look at that. I don't say 8 tenths, 9 hundredths. That's weird. I say 89 hundredths. So how do I write that in word form? 89 hundredths. Okay, and what fraction is that? So the number I said was 89, remember, and that's going to be your numerator. And the place value I said was hundredths, 89 hundredths. So 100 is going to be my denominator. Star for showing your work. star for 89 hundredths in word form, star for 89 hundredths in fraction form. Okay, and last one on this page, number 9. Select all the fractions that are equivalent to 2/10. Okay, so that decimal I just told you was 2/10. So this is, well, let's see. Okay. I'm going to draw a place value chart real quick so I can explain something. Here's the ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. Okay, I'm just going to shorten. There's a 0 in the ones place, the decimal point, and a 2 in the hundredths, or in the tenths place, sorry, tenths place. Okay, so 2/10 is how you say that fraction, or that decimal. So I can find the fraction for 2/10 right here. Okay, so 2/10 as a fraction, 2/10 as a decimal. But it says select all the fractions. I know that there's going to be more than one. Okay, with decimals, I could put a 0 in this hundredths place, and this is still the same as this. This is equivalent. So this decimal is equivalent to this one now. 0 and 2/10 is equivalent to 0 and 2 hundredths. Sorry, 20 hundredths, not 2 hundredths. 20 hundredths, okay? You can put as many zeros as you want after it. You could put 100 zeros. And this is still equivalent to that, okay? So what would this decimal be as a fraction? This is the number 20, so my numerator is going to be 20. 20 hundredths. So it's also B, because 20 hundredths is equivalent to 2/10, right? You just multiply the denominator by 10, multiply the numerator by 10. So 2/10 is equivalent to 20 hundredths. 2/10 is equivalent to 20 hundredths. Just those two, B and C. Okay. All right, and then we just have the practice pages. So I am going to challenge you again to do those on your own first, and then we will correct with the video. So go do the pages. Do this page 549 and 550 on the back. The example's already done for you. You don't have to worry about that one. They are just showing the different forms of 9 hundredths. Here it is as decimal, here it is as word form, here it is as fraction form. Okay, number 1. Shade the model below to show 34 hundredths. Okay, so 34 hundredths is how you say that decimal. Here's 100 squares. I need to color in 34 of them. So you can color in any 34 you want, but it's the easiest for me, I think, and probably easiest for you too, to color in 3 full rows to show 30, and then just 4 more, 34, okay? You can do any 34, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be exactly those, but as long as you colored in 34 squares, you get a star. Number 2, show 34 hundredths in the place value chart. Well, that's easy, I just have to copy this down here. There's 0 in the ones place, there's the decimal point, a 3 in the tenths place, and a 4 in the hundredths place. If this is exactly what you put, give yourself a star. Write this decimal in words, word form. So remember, we say the number 34, and what place value is the last one? Hundredths. 34 hundredths. 34 hundredths. And there's no excuse for spelling hundredths wrong, it's right there. If you wrote out 34 hundredths, give yourself a star. Last one on this page, write 34 hundredths as a fraction. So remember, you just say it as a decimal, 34 hundredths. So the number you say, 34, is your numerator. The place value you say, hundredths, is your denominator. 34 hundredths. Okay. If you felt good about this page so far, 1 through 4, you're golden. You're great. That's everything you need to know. I mean, keep learning, keep going, because, you know, 5th grade, they're going to give you some hard stuff. We need to keep practicing. But if you felt good about that, that's perfect. Okay? That's all I want. We just have to know what the decimal looks like in all these different forms. In the model, in a place value chart, in word form, and as a fraction. So if you felt good about that problem, 34 hundredths, give yourself a pat on the back, go hug somebody, go tell them you're an expert with decimals. You're a genius. Okay, number 5, true or false. So they give us a decimal and they show us a fraction that it's equivalent to. We just have to decide if they're correct or not. Okay, so we're going to say the decimal and we're going to say the fraction and see if they match. This is 3/10, 3/100. Are those the same? No. Okay, 3/100, 3/100. That was the same. 3/10, 30/100. Not the same, but that's tricky because this decimal is 3/10, right? That's an equivalent fraction. 3/10 is equivalent to 30/100 because they just multiply 3 times 10 to get 30 and 10 times 10 to get 100. So technically that one's true. Because remember, you can add a 0 after this 3 in the decimal to make it 30/100. Haha. Okay, last one, 3/10, 3/10. Same thing. So it's false, true, true, true. Ta-da! Okay, number 6, write 2 fractions equivalent to 4/10. Okay, so 2 different fractions equivalent to 4/10. So the way I say it is just 4/10. The number I said is 4, so there's my numerator. The place value I said was tenths, so there's my denominator, 4/10. But I need another one. So I could change that into hundredths very easily by just multiplying both numerator and denominator by 100. Or no, by 10. Sorry, I gave you the answer. Not by 100. So 4 times 10 is 40. 100. Oh my gosh, I keep saying it. 10 times 10 is 100. Gosh, I really want to multiply by 100 apparently. Those are my 2 fractions. Because this one is 40/100. 40/100. These are equivalent decimals. Those are the matching equivalent fractions. Oh, 2 stars if you got both of those. And technically, if we're getting technical about it, remember you could have done like 40,000 100,000ths. As long as your numerator had 1 less 0 than your denominator, right? Because there's 0 zeros, 1 0, 1 0, 2 zeros, 1 2 3 4 zeros, 1 2 3 4 5 zeros. So yeah, equivalent fractions. Okay, number 7. Which words or fractions name the same number as this decimal? So how would you say that decimal? 62 hundredths, because that's my last place value in my number. 62 hundredths. A says 62 hundredths. Hey, that's what I said. 6 and 2 hundredths. Nope. 6 and 2 hundredths looks like that. 6/10 and 2 hundredths. Technically, that is the same if you're describing the place value chart. There are 6/10 and 2 hundredths. So technically that one works. That's just not how you would say it, right? But it is the same. There are 6/10 and 2 hundredths. So that is correct. 62/10. No. 62 hundredths. Yeah. So it was A, C, and E. Okay, number 8. Confusing, there's a number line. Okay, the number line below shows 1 whole divided into tenths. So here's 0, here's 1, every dash is a tenth. Write numbers in the boxes to label the missing fractions and decimal. Explain how you know what numbers to write. Let's not explain. Let's cross that out. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell your teacher. Okay, so here's 1/10. There's the decimal for 1/10. 2/10, 2/10. This one would be 3/10. 4/10. So 4/10. 5/10. 5/10. 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. 8/10 as a decimal, 8/10, or just like that. You don't have to put the 0 in the ones place. So 4/10 as a fraction, 5/10 as a fraction, 8/10 as a fraction, 8/10 as a decimal. All right, let's count stars. I think there's a lot of them. And just counting stars for the practice pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so just on these green practice pages, let's do it right here. Out of 17, how many did you get? Okay, hopefully you're feeling good about decimals. I think it's pretty enjoyable, and it's a very real world skill. You're gonna need to know decimals, okay? There's a lot of cases in real life that you are gonna need to know decimals, so hopefully you're feeling okay about it. We only have like a handful of math videos left, so if you're at this point, congratulations for making this far. Good luck in the Hunger Games. Just kidding. Okay, bye.